Hello, hello. Wow, I've got a little bit of echo here. I hope you're joining me. I want to have a little conversation about SEO and talk about how mobile devices might change your strategy if they haven't already. So, let's see here. Gotta make sure I'm live, make sure everything's good. Let's see here. Gotta make sure I'm live, make sure everything's good. I'm live. I hope you didn't hear that echo. All right, cool. So you have maybe heard about the new Google mobile first indexing. And basically, what this means is that Google is looking to ultimately index websites based on their mobile website first. So, for example, maybe you have a website, but ultimately it may not be mobile optimized, or maybe you have a complete blog or anything like that, but maybe the website is not necessarily mobile friendly. This is bad because for you, they're going to put other websites or other blogs that are mobile friendly ahead of potentially ahead of your search results, depending on the competition and the search queries that your website gets into, right? So this is something that's actually not anything new. This has sort of been something that has been in the works for a while now, but ultimately Google has officially sort of said yes, by default, mobile indexing is first. So I'm going to show you some articles, right? So basically, oh, that's my Facebook page. If you haven't already, please like my Facebook page, facebook.com/Scott Winterroth, or facebook.com/Team Content Academy, depending on which feed you're watching this from. But ultimately, Google has been talking about doing this mobile first indexing now for a while. Basically, when you add a new website to the Search Console or to Google Search Console, or if you have an existing website in Search Console, by default, all new websites or web pages will be first looked at as a mobile device first before a desktop device, which is actually a little bit different than what it's been for many years. Many years, Google has always given priority to the desktop version, but over the last several years, they have been migrating to mobile because at the end of the day, most people are using the interwebs with mobile devices, right? With devices like iPhones, iPads, Android devices, so on and so forth. So now it's like official. Basically, most of the web should be optimized for a phone first. Um, and the way that they are sort of communicating that to webmasters is through Google Search Console. So if you haven't already, you probably have submitted your website to Google Webmasters, right? So if you go to google.com/webmasters, in here you'll find information about how to submit and index your site using their Search Console platform. This is basically where you go to submit a website to Google when you want to either do it for the first time or when you want to monitor your site health based on how Google sees your website within its search index. And once you sort of go through the process of submitting your site, you get access to Search Console, as I mentioned. So in here is like a dashboard, which gives you all types of performance data based on how well Google sort of is indexing your site. It gives you information on like your overall performance. It used to give a lot more information, but basically today it's a lot less information. It's not as good as it used to be because Google is trying to encrypt a lot of this data. They're not giving a lot of data to users because a lot of users were using this data to essentially spam the system, right? So also there's other proprietary reasons. They make money off of people guessing, right? So at the end of the day, this is sort of a basic introduction to Search Console. But in here, you can see sort of various feedback about your website, including any errors. Oops, I see I have an error here. I need to check that out. I can see what pages or what pages are valid, invalid, that kind of stuff. And what I wanted to definitely point out is the mobile usability, right? So you definitely want to check this. If your website is not mobile friendly, this is where Google's going to tell you if it's mobile friendly or not, is here in this thing. So there's various tools and various techniques you can use to make your website mobile friendly if it's not. Generally speaking, if you're using WordPress and you have a WordPress theme that's, built within the last year or so, you're probably not going to have a problem. They are all sort of built with the idea of being responsive, meaning that they sort of just respond to the correct size of the screen, depending on what you're trying to do. But if you have got an older theme, or it's been maybe 3 or 4 years since you've built your website, you might want to consider doing a good audit or do a complete rebuild of your website to make sure that it's mobile friendly. I mean, really try to build and design the website like using your phone first, because that's really what most users are using. And I know I hear a lot of clients and a lot of people say, oh, well, my users don't use mobile devices. I challenge it. I think that's wrong. I think most people do use mobile devices at some level. So when people say that, I get a little squeamish, because I don't believe that's true. I think many people use mobile devices, and there's not a person out there that doesn't use a mobile device on a website or blog sometimes today. This happens a lot with bloggers too. I personally, and this is maybe my personal opinion, but as a blogger, I sometimes am a little more computer inept, if you will, and I prefer to use my desktop computer as I write. It's just easier to use a full-size keyboard to write and to blog and create content like this. But ultimately, most of my readers, potentially, especially people who are coming to a content-driven website like a podcast, are coming from mobile devices. Most likely they're coming from their iPhones because they listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, or they listen to the podcast on Google Play, right? So you want to make sure that if anything, those podcast links that you're sending out are mobile friendly, right? So definitely spend some time to, if anything, do an audit of your website and make sure that the content that you are putting out there is mobile friendly. There's also a really nice Google mobile friendly tool, and I'm going to Google it because I didn't pull it up. Mobile friendly test, not tool. But basically, this tool will let you enter any web page, and it will give you a heads up if it is mobile friendly or not. So I'm going to enter one of my websites in here. Hopefully it's mobile friendly. I'm pretty sure it is. So I'm going to enter it in here and then do a run test. And it's going to perform an analyzation of the web page. Let's let it go. It's going to take a second just because I got a lot going on right now with all this video equipment and that kind of stuff. Oh, it's saying it's not mobile friendly, so I definitely have some things I need to work on. That's actually really surprising because I use a theme that is mobile friendly. So I'm going to need to make sure I take a deeper look at that, especially because this is a great example where I thought it was and it's not. So definitely good to go through. It's telling me that some of the elements on my webpage are too close together and some of the content is wider than the screen. So this means it's saying right here, this picture right here is wider than the screen. So I need to go in there and I need to do some research and figure out how I can either remediate this or redo it. I'm going to do it again. Sometimes there's caching issues with this too, where it's pulling the wrong type of version. So I'm going to check it a few times and just check to make sure the site's mobile friendly. A little embarrassing that I'm doing this on live video and I'm not, but ultimately that's okay. That's part of the process. We all have this. And also what was mobile friendly a couple months ago may not be mobile friendly today. Or, you go in there, you make a small tweak to your website, you're thinking everything's fine and it's not going to cause any problems, but yeah, I didn't think that it was going to cause a mobile issue. Here we go. Yeah, this isn't this is a better version. This is telling me it is mobile friendly. So I was a little worried there, but ultimately it's saying it's mobile friendly. I think it was just pulling the wrong version. So it doesn't hurt to do it once or twice. You never know. And again, see if there's any issues. Especially go through all these little error codes. If you guys have questions about what some of these error codes mean, I'll try my best to answer them. I don't know everything, but I definitely maybe have had a prior experience, or maybe someone within our WordPress group has a prior experience. So feel free to post screenshots or questions to our Word Mentor Facebook group. You can go to wordmentor.com to find out more information on how to get to the Word Mentor group. You can always post stuff there, and either myself or someone from the community will be happy to respond. So this is a little bit basically an overview of mobile friendly. At the end of the day, sort of to recap, you want to make sure your website's mobile friendly. Most likely, if you built your website within the last couple of years, you're probably already there. If you haven't, or maybe you just want to make sure you're a concerned citizen, you want to make sure you're doing the right thing, it wouldn't hurt to do a mobile-friendly audit of a few pages of your website just to make sure they all come up properly mobile using the mobile-friendly test. If they do not, then you might have to go back to sort of the drawing board and figure out what you're going to do, if you want to redesign the entire website, or if maybe there's ways that you can sort of take your most important content and turn that into mobile-friendly content. So this is this has been around, so maybe this isn't exactly brand new information for you, but ultimately now it's for real, it's like when laws go into enact in the government, it's like, the laws are coming, but they haven't been enacted yet. Well, this is now for real. This is happening. You definitely should do what you can to make sure that your website's mobile friendly. As always, if you have questions, feel free to hit up the group. You guys know how to get a hold of me, so feel free to contact me. I'll do what I can to answer your questions directly. I will add links to these articles. Also, I want to give a shout out to WP Tavern. They have a really good article as well by journalist and blogger Sarah Gooding. So WPTavern.com, it's where I get a lot of my WordPress news. So I like to share this to the group when I can. TechCrunch is another great source of all things tech. So I wanted to kind of share with you a mainstream article as well, just to show that there's multiple sources saying the same thing. Don't forget about Google Webmaster Tools and Google Webmaster Resources. I'm planning on doing an entire course on this at some point, but for right now, definitely go to google.com/webmasters and learn as much as you can. This is a great free resource that Google provides. And basically, it's like your connection as a website owner to Google. So this is where you want to go and make sure that you insert your website here so you get this Search Console feedback, and you can go in here and actually see the overall performance of your website, see when things are wrong, see when things are right, and do everything you can to make sure that your website is working properly within the Google index. Because this is a big indicator, not just for Google, but for all the search engines. Obviously, if it's not performing well in Google, it's probably not performing in other search engines like Yahoo, Bing, and DuckDuckGo, and all of the other ones. So definitely make sure you do this. Bing has a similar tool with Bing Webmaster Tools. You can definitely check that out as well. And finally, the mobile-friendly test. Just go to search.google.com/test/mobile-friendly. I'll add a link to the page, but this is a great way to check to make sure that your website is all up and running. So that's it for this. I hope this was kind of a really quick overview of what the Google mobile-friendly means for you and your website. As of course, I'm going to add this to my podcast, so feel free to check out my podcast. I'm doing a little bit of a soft promo here, but go to blogyouwant.com to get onto the podcast. Get more updates, as well as being in the Word Mentor group by Content Academy, which is wordmentor.com. It automatically redirects to our free Facebook group. You can join and get all of our WordPress tips, tricks, and hints on that group, and collaborate with other people who are like-minded WordPress nerds like me. So there you go. If you guys have any questions, you know how to get in touch. Thanks now. Bye now.